Next day, Fred got underway with a big chimney maintenance job, which would help to finance the building of his engine, and which he seized as a golden opportunity to offer instruction on the art of putting up scaffolding.
Now I look around and sort of lots of scaffolds at the top of chimneys that have been erected by so-called steeplejacks look like a bloody biplane's crashed into the top, and, you know, there's pipes going all over the show, all different directions. No square or symmetrical about the thing. And life went by, and one day I met the man who sort of had been a draftsman, and he'd only ended up in this crazy job through his father-in-law were a bit stuck, who were a steeplejack, and he'd gone help him out, and he was like a bit of a cut above the rest with the grey matter, and he explained to me with a piece of chalk on the cobblestones in a mill yard in Bolton how you put the ladders up and how you put the staging up round the top of a chimney. First thing I've got to do is get me bosun's chair up, and then I'm dangling in a position somewhere round about here on my 3 bits of rope and a little board. I have then got to chisel 4 holes into the brickwork, 6 inches apart, in a vertical plane and a couple of foot apart the other way. And the next thing, up comes 4 iron pins or iron dogs. The purpose of these is to support a great balk of timber, which will come up next, you see. Put one of these dogs or pins in the hole on the left-hand side of the ladder. When the batten comes up the chimney, it's tied onto the line that goes from another pulley wheel at the top right down to the floor. It's tied on in a position about 4 feet from one end, and then the rope runs up the side of it, and there's a lashing round there which I can conveniently undo, and then I guide that piece of timber with, you know, Donald at the bottom supporting its weight, and I guide it behind the ladder until I've got it going across here, like so. And then I put the next pin or dog underneath that side of it, 2 more over the top. So then I've got it so it won't go up and down, it won't waddle about. In a bosun's chair, if you've looked after all the rope and all the tattle, you have a beautiful sense of security, because, you know rope will hold a couple of ton and you weigh nowhere near that, and, like, really, pays you to look after your equipment, because, you know, like, if that bloody rope breaks, you're dead. You know, it's half a day out with the undertaker. Sort of, you know, like when I get on my seat board, I give it a little bounce and just see whether it's safe or not, you know, and more often, well, it's never broke yet, you know, but I'm always ready to get hold of the bloody ladder if it does break. This batten has a series of holes drilled in it, and I then proceed to bolt one on there and one over there, like so. And then I'll lower myself down on my bosun's chair and mark a suitable joint at the bottom and knock a pin through there and a pin through there. So I've then got that, like, all braced up quite solid. When that's been done on both sides of the chimney, the next thing to come up is 2 long steel rods, which I use to connect both of these battens together. And I've got this big iron rod, and I've got to send it over to the far batten. And that means maybe 14 feet across, you know, or 12 foot on a reasonable chimney stack. I've got to get that rod onto the other batten so that it's in, like, line with an hole, and as it scrapes down the face, give it a shove through the hole, you know, and if you're lucky, you'll get it through, sort of thing. It's rather a tricky bit, that. See, all the modern men use aluminium scaffolding tubing now, but I like this way of doing it. It's a bit more awkward, but when you've got it all up, it's quite solid. Then when you've finally got the rods through the two sets of holes, then you put the washers and the nuts on, or a few packing pieces, so you can slightly cramp them up around the chimney. Then after we've got the two battens on and bolted together, the next stage of the game is planks, which form like the platform that you walk on, come up one at once, of course, because some of them like 16, 18 feet long. And when it arrives at the top, it's tied on in a special way that when I untie it, I can get like one plank across there, like so, and one across there, like so, and then another one next to it, you see, all the way around the top. And so that when you walk on them, they don't go like up and down like that. You know, two iron plates with a bolt through the middle, which makes them two boards as one. And then there's iron hooks that hook them onto the battens, so the wind can blow at 100 miles an hour and they'll still be there in the morning, you see. Wind is every steeplejack's enemy, you know, like there's no way that, you know, you get the boards up, and even if you've got to keep it flat all the time, and you've got this feeling that it's floating on the wind, you know, which it really is, and if you turn it sideways on into the wind, it'd have your way. In a wind like today, sort of older chimneys, you know, you get about 2 or 3 inches swaying about, you know. It's actually all the chimney stacks swaying, you know, from side to side. You have that feeling that there's something not quite right, you know, as though you've had about 5 pints of beer, like, you know, you think, you know, there's something moving somewhere, sort of thing, and, you know, it's all the bloody lot going like this. If you're on the windy side of it, you don't feel it because the wind's buffeting you about, you see. But if you go around in the slipstream and sit on the stage nice and quiet and just lean against the wall, you can feel it moving, you know, rocking. Nice. A big gust and you'll feel it go right over, and then there's a bit of a lee in the wind, you feel it come back. It's quite unbelievable, you know. There's not many people experienced out like that. When we've got all the big planks in position, on a large diameter chimney, there's a great gap in the corner, so we've got 4 boards called corner boards that fit across the corners, you see, like so, which, like, stops you falling through the hole in the corner. Once you've got the first staging up, or the first deck up, you know, there's firm basis for going higher up, then you chisel the holes for the next staging. And, you know, you can work quite comfortably as though you were on the ground. When I've done it, when I've got all the gear up, you know, to me, it's a bloody magnificent achievement, you know. You've, like, really got the world at your feet.